We are the Bowmen Podcast. The Bowmen is the iconic story of an incident from the First World War trenches. Faced with inevitable death and defeat, a battalion of English soldiers is saved by the mysterious and miraculous intervention of St. George and a company of English bowmen who had last fought at Agincourt. It's said they were mysterious and ghost-like, perhaps from another realm. We chose the name The Bowmen Podcast because, like those men, the bowmen, no one knows us either. Welcome to the show. We are indeed the Bowmen Podcast. If it's archery, bow hunting, outdoors, fitness, mental health, gear, goods, cooking, and family, we're talking about it. We're pumped, so let's do it. Welcome to the Bowmen Podcast. And now your hosts, Paul Romano Jr. of Romano Outdoors, including bowman Josh Miller of Triple Point, Troy Forrester of Greenlight, Caleb Bateman, and Cedric O'Hara of C2 Media. The Bowmen Podcast.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Bowmen Podcast, episode 10, coming from live from here in Virginia, and then we got Ohio here. We're a little bit short on some bowmen tonight. Hopefully they jump on, but they had prior engagements. We got Greenlight Outdoors, Troy, well, on the left of my screen. I don't know where we are on yours. And then we got Josh Miller, Triple Point, down at the bottom, repping the Hunt Tech Pro hat out of South Africa. He'll be heading there soon. What is it?
20 days, something like that. 15 now. It's coming quick.
So let's talk about your travel here a little bit. You said you had a hell of a flight going in there. You got to go through like Paris or something and then down, or is that on the way home?
Yeah, it's on the way back. So the flight to Johannesburg, Tambo International Airport is 15 hours from here, leaving out of Columbus, Ohio, and fly out. You get,
direct?
3-4 meals. No, there's a layover, I think, in Jersey for maybe a couple hours going there, Newark. It's not bad. The biggest thing is I found when traveling, especially with bows, equipment and guns, make sure that you take it directly to the terminal and take it to the oversized area, the special area instead of the line. Talk to the people there. They'll get you checking your equipment in, get in the oversized area. And then when you get off the plane where you're going at your location, you go right to that area as well, because that's where those bows and guns are going to be.
Yeah, exactly. I do that all the time when I go out west. If you just put it in the normal one, you watch your bow fall from that conveyor belt where your luggage comes and then boom, and then a suitcase comes and boom, you're like, I humped in 8 hours. What's going on?
Yeah. That's so scary. And I mark it, I put fragile on the cases, and I latch them down with the number of lock spaces that I have, but you just never know, do you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're going to start off a little different, but this just kind of got in my mind with all this. But, with traveling, I was telling Josh, like, I take the bow out of the case and I bubble wrap the shit out of that. Like, I'm shipping it in a box and, take the sight off and bubble wrap it, the arrows and bubble wrap it. Then I put it in the case. Then I lock it up, just because they just, look how they treat luggage, man. Like, they just throw it around. So
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Troy, how you feeling today?
Oh, good. The 4th was good. With it being, not falling on a weekend, made that whole week seem pretty long. Everybody started celebrating the weekend prior, and then, you got the 4th, Tuesday, and then so we've been, trying to catch up on rest as we can, but it's been good.
Awesome. How's the Prime treating you?
It's getting dialed in. It's right on the money. I've been stretching it out a little bit and making some content, some media with it. It's hitting right where I want it to, so I can't complain one bit. I need to get another target though. I'm tearing up this target I got shooting those locked clovises into it.
I saw that old target breaking apart in that video. Well, if you come down this Friday, we got or Josh can bring one back for you. We got some good targets down here from Big Shot. That'll be pretty awesome. So be able to take a look at those and check it out. But yeah, no, I want to start off with the boys recommended a little story here. So I want to bring it back about, how long have I been here? I've been here 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, so probably 11 years now. Right around when Bowtech came out with their 82nd Airborne and their 101st Airborne bows, probably back in the early 2000s, like 2007, 2008, maybe around that time, maybe a little earlier. But I've been setting up bows for a long time, and I decided my buddy wanted one. So he found one online and bought it. When you buy things off of eBay or wherever else, you never know really what's going to happen. So he gave it to me, and he's like, you're the only one I trust setting it up. So set it up. Here's all the accessories. Do what you got to do. Okay, no problem. So I'm setting it up, put everything on it and go and shoot it, paper tune it, do everything I have to do. The bow's shooting great. I'm like, wow, this is really nice. So we go to a range, outdoor range. We were living in Long Island at the time, and it goes out to 150 yards. So we were launching arrows at like 100, 120 just for fun. I mean, if you ever get into a spot where you can do that, it's just fun just to launch them long range and see what you can do, using the bottom of your sight housing for a pin and, and all that stuff. But those bows were fast and they were efficient, but, they didn't make the highest quality cam systems at that point in time. So a couple days went by, we had to work and whatnot. I had the bow hanging in my shop, my temporary shop at the time, and I go to take it down, and I'm like, you know what, I'm just going to draw it back. I heard some clicking or something, last time. We'll see like what it is. I'll start working on it. So I go and I, stupid me, I just like, let me grab it with my fingers and pull it back. You should always have a release. You should always have an arrow. You should always have, but we all do it. You grab a bow, you pull it back. You're like, wow, this feels great. So I go ahead and I'm sitting down in the chair and I grab it and I pull it back, and all of a sudden I hear like a shotgun going off. Like, I was just like, so that bow just comes unrailed, goes off. I shit my pants because I thought I got shot. I didn't know if I died. I didn't know what the hell happened there. Like literally shit my pants.
Where's the blood?
So like a couple seconds go by and I'm just like, what the F was that? And so I look at the bow and the strings off the cam's sideways, the limb's cracks, this one's cracked, the other one, the cam's off. And it's just like all like sideways and broken. I'm like, what the hell happened? And then all of a sudden I'm sitting there, I'm like, I smell something.
Oh,
Yeah, I literally I thought I was gonna die. So I pooped my pants. But what I found out in the rebuild process was through shooting, and now I check it all the time, live and learn. But the old school string stops that they had came loose. And when he was shooting it, he must have moved them a little bit back just to get a little bit let off. But back then, he really couldn't do that on those bows. And he didn't tighten them tight enough. And they came loose, and the cams just whipped around in a full circle. And man,
my.
it was like a 12 gauge shotgun going off.
Jeez.
I was like, nothing hit me. I didn't have a scratch, nothing. But I was like, like I just couldn't do it.
Did like a limb crack, or was it just string
all of them.
Wow.
It's not like these days where they say they'll shoot them 100 times, dry fire 1,000 times or whatever. Back then they didn't do that. It was like basically you never dry fire your bow, or it's gonna be different times now and stuff, but you live and learn. But that was a rough day in my household. So.
I'll tell you, I've got a similar story. I heard one, and then I've got one of my own personally. The one I heard was a guy in South Africa. He's a bigger dude. He's probably like 6'5", 6'6", but he was overdrawing. He was shooting a PSE not long ago this year, and he was drawing way too far. His draw length is I think like 32 or something, and he was overdrawing the bow, and it literally exploded in his hands. And I think the string came back and smacked him in the face, and he said it was horribly painful. And then I haven't done that on a vertical bow, but I did something really stupid. And this is something that people should watch too, because it can happen real easy on the crossbows that don't have a decock. It doesn't stop on the way back. I had my Raven R10, which doesn't have a decock. I mean, you can decock it, but it doesn't have a brake, right? Internal brake mechanism. I had it cocked, and the bad part is, and it's been several times I almost did it, and then I did it one time. So I had it cocked all the way, and I looked down, and I thought the housing wasn't attached to the string. I thought I needed to cock it again. So I went and I hit the release button, thinking I needed to let the housing drop down and attach to the string, and it was already cocked, and the limbs were at full tension. And when I hit, I had the handle on to cock it, and that thing let go and it just spun. I mean, it almost took my thumb off. It spun. Yeah. Took a gouge out of the side of the Raven, took a gouge out of my thumb, and I stood there in shock for a second, going, "What the heck did I do?" And didn't realize. And then from now, once bitten, twice shy. I check every single time now, because sometimes your eye wouldn't catch it.
That happened to me with my 10-point, and like you can see my knuckle. Look at the bump. My knuckle right there. I was in the tree in the box blind with my son 2 years ago, and ratcheting it up, and he said something to me, and I looked at him, and I was like, "Shh, like be quiet, like what's going on?" And then like I thought it was done, so I just let go, and it went. And it was like, and, oh my god, dude, you haven't lived until you got hit with one of those things.
Oh, it hurts so
I don't know how fast it goes and how much weight that thing has, but man, there was blood everywhere. My son was like, "My daddy's dying." It's like, no, we're gonna shoot a deer. You know,
It's
put it in my
time.
pocket.
Yeah, yeah. You kind of like look around, like, okay, no one saw it. Let's do it right this time.
Yeah, Jesus, man. But those
Yeah.
crossbows, if you're not paying attention to them, that's why I like the new ones where you just, if you crank, if you stop, it doesn't do anything. It just
Yes.
stops. But
Yep.
man, a couple years ago, those things were like those metal foot pedals on the bicycles when we grew up. Like,
Oh
if
yeah.
you whack right in the shin,
Oh yeah.
spikes of death on
Puncture
those
you.
things.
Death machines. Yeah, I have a respectful fear of these high speed crossbows. I think everybody, you go to cock some and you're kind of like wincing. You're like, all right, you
Yeah.
know.
Like, when are you going to blow up? Yeah, I've seen a couple of Barnetts blow up. No offense to Barnett and the company. My personal thing is I'd never buy a Barnett crossbow. Man, I've seen so much bad crap happen to those crossbows and
Yeah.
blow up, and people come in pieces and they're like, "Can you fix this?" I'm like, "No." Like, go buy a new one.
Yeah, that's gone. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gone.
Yeah. They have great warranties. Like, go call them, tell them what happened, and show them a picture, and they'll send you a new one. But yeah, no, it's been a rough day, man. I'm not gonna lie. I'm tired. We had a long day at the shop. We had a bunch of people coming in. God, we sold 3 bare bows and 2 primes today, and then fixed a couple more. And I have a guy coming in tomorrow. I got to fix his Hoyt. So we have this local shop, not local shop, a shop that's been here forever, probably about 55 miles away. They're like number 2 or 3 in the region on the East Coast for selling Matthews. So that's why I don't sell Matthews, because it's pretty close, and I don't want to get into it. So anyway, I spend more time fixing their mistakes than anything else. I'm pretty sure out of the 1,000 people I had come into my shop so far, like 800 of them has been like, yeah, this is happening, this is going on, and I ripped the bow through paper and it's got like a 7-inch tear this way. I'm like, they're just pumping out product and they don't even look at it. So, for me to have 5 people come in my shop and I give them 100% dedication and time and make sure they leave perfectly set up is a passion. And you guys will see it next week, how we do things. So, but it's pretty incredible, the flow that we're getting now as it gets closer to hunting season. So really nice to see. But yeah, we're gonna start off the podcast here. We're gonna talk about a couple topics. So we know we got Josh coming in, going on some long trips here. We were talking about wrapping up your bow a little bit earlier. I go out west a lot. Troy travels around the state a little bit. But what I really want to get into is I want people to understand what it takes to book some of these trips and also to go on them, and what's entailed. We spoke earlier in another podcast about, the cost of high fence, low fence, going on these outfitted hunts, right? 3 to 10 grand plus, depending on what you want to do and how long you want to go, but the hidden costs, right? So I'll give you an example, and I'll start it off with this. So typically every 2 to 4 years, I go on an elk hunt. Last year went on an elk hunt, shot a nice elk, and you got to get ready for what happens next, right? So we're out in Utah. You spend X amount on going to hunt, X amount on the license, and then you got your airfare going out there and your baggage and all that, because airlines these days, they don't include baggage, maybe one. So now you have your bow, you have your suitcase for your clothes, you have your suitcase for your hunting stuff, right? So now you're paying for, one's free, maybe, depending on the ticket you buy in the airline. 2, you got to pay for. So that's another $100, right? And then if you're someone like Josh who's going over to South Africa, he's got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bows. So now you're up to 300-400 just in luggage going out there, right? And now, so we go out there, we hunt, we got lucky, we shoot a beautiful elk, we have a great time, we eat like kings, we party, whatever. Now it's time to figure out what you're going to do, right? So not, and I'll be real, I spent 7 grand on the elk hunt for the guide, that it's a 10,000 acre private land outside of Park City that no one has access to but him. He's a friend of the family. He has the right to hunt that property. So we pay him anywhere between 5 and 7, depending on the time of year and when we want to go. And we can hunt until we shoot something. So he's a good friend of ours. So we go out and we do that, right? And get something, we take it back. Now, I mean, we don't have the facility. I butcher all my deer. I'm a chef. I butcher everything. I like doing that. But out there, I don't have the facility to do it. So I bring it to a butcher. Okay. So now you got a 1,000-pound animal going to the butcher, right? So that's, now you're talking 450, 500 to get that butchered and wrapped, right? So now you already paid 7 grand, say. Airfare is like 700-800. Baggage additional is say 200-300. I don't know. Do the math, Josh. You're the engineer over here.
Like you're at like $8,000 easy. You know?
$8,000 easy, right? So now you got 450. You shot something to Cape, butcher, all that, right? Okay. So now you're at 8,500, say, round it up, right? So now you're gonna take that hide and head. Like that was my first Utah bull. Like I want that thing mounted. Like I don't care if it's I wouldn't have mounted a spike, but it was a raghorn up to a 500-inch giant. I was mounting it. I mean, he was a nice bull, so we mounted him. So that's $2,000 to mount him by a professional taxidermist who's renowned out there. So now you're up. Yeah. Now you're up to 10.5, right? So now you have to decide, because you have 700 pounds of meat. Are you going to fly home with that meat? Are you going to ship that meat? Or are you going to drive it home? Right. And that's the reality of it. So airlines only allow 50-pound bags. So do the math on 700 pounds of meat, 50-pound bags at $50 a bag. So, I mean, that's 350. What half of that 50 is 350. I'm no math whiz, whatever. That's like
a lot.
That's a lot of that's a lot of money, right? That's like another $1,000 right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not doing that. That's off the table. Boom, there goes that. So now I wasted half of my airline ticket going back. So I go to the airline and I have refundable park tickets because I was smart. I did that. My moose hunt coming up. I wasn't smart. We can get to that in a minute. That was a debacle. So I got part of my airline fee back, right? Okay, so now do I ship it back? Okay, the guy at the butcher's like, okay, guys come out here all the time. They go to Walmart, they buy these Coleman coolers that are this big, do the math. It's 700 pounds. You fit about 24 pounds in each. I'm like, what? 24 pounds? Like, so now you're in it for a couple other thousand. I'm like, no, I'm taking all this meat home. What do? We go and we rent a car. Throw all the stuff in the car. We got lucky that my uncle's neighbor, they're rich and they have these huge coolers. So we had 2 huge coolers. Put all their money, not all their money, I wish, all the meat in it, right? Pack it with ice, put it in the back seat of the car. Now we're driving 21 hours for us, right? So now you got the rental car, which is 200-300. The ice, which you got to ice every day. I mean, we did it in 2 days. We did it overnight and whatever. You have the hotel or Airbnb that you're staying at. You have the gas coming back, right? You have the food that you're going to eat coming back. So let's just put another 1,000 on top of that to get it back, right? So we get it back, whatever, and all that. So now this nice little, and I can talk about this because I recently got, how do I put this nicely without getting divorced?
Look out, be careful.
the talking to about how this hunt turned into like a $13,000 investment coming back. So for all of you out there listening, and I know we got a pretty good following right now, and thank you for that. When you go on these big hunts, like you got to think of these things. And I'll be honest, like I thought about it and I knew it, but the amount of time that I went out there and hunted, I was never successful. So it never really came to fruition for me until it was like, I got something. Okay. Now, then you got to realize you got to take care of it. You got to butcher it. You want to get it mounted. You got to get it home. Oh, and then the icing on the cake is the phone rings. Ring, ring. Hi, this is Paul. How can I help you? Hi, this is High-Uintas Taxidermy. Your mount is ready. Okay, great. You need to pay the balance of $1,200 because you just put a deposit. Okay, here's my credit card. Take that down. And what would you like to do with it? Do you want to come out and get it? Or do you like it shipped to you?
Ship it.
Okay, so what is shipping? Well, we don't know. We got to find the estimate for the person. So it's not like shipping in a crate, whatever. They have this service, which when I retire in life, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to buy a couple vans, okay, big Mercedes vans, and they come and they go to the taxidermist and they pick up whatever's ready and they hang them in the back of the truck, like on your wall, and secure them. And then they go and they drive and they drop them off as they go, and then they pick up other stuff and then they bring it back. It's genius. There's like one person that does it. So let's see. So I look up the airfare and it would be like for, my kids want to come now because they want to go out to Utah. So it's like, okay, so now we're talking $1,500 in airfare for round trip. If it was just me, maybe $400 or $500, like whatever. Okay, good. So now I get I'm like, just ship it. Whatever, just ship it. I don't care. So, okay, they're going to ship it. They ship it. And I don't hear from them. I'm like, I didn't have to pay anything. Like, you're shipping it. It's coming to me. And like right around when you get that feeling that something's wrong, like that's when it usually happens, like instantly. It's like boom, it happens. So the minute I'm like, wow, I haven't heard from them in 2 weeks. Like I'm doing the math in my head. Like it doesn't take that long to drive. I don't know how many mounts they could fit in that thing. And I'm like, huh. And then all of a sudden I hear, I pick up the phone and they're like, hi, this is hey Cedric. They're like, this is whatever delivery service. We're gonna be at your house tomorrow to drop off your elk. And I'm like, okay, cool. 2.5 weeks later. So they're like, oh yeah, we only take cash or check. Okay, cash or check. That's pretty cool. Okay, can I leave you a check? I'm like, I'm not gonna be home. Can I like put it on top of the freezer and you leave the elk in the garage? Like, I don't know. He's like, yeah, you can do that, no problem. So never saw the person. My elks get dropped off. It's beautiful. So long story short, $850 to deliver the elk back. So come on here, Troy, the math whiz. So now we're up to like 15 grand, right? For a $7,000 elk hunt to be successful, and including licensing, food, everything. Like it's not cheap, y'all.
No, not at all.
It's really not.
Not at all.
I have this undying passion to hunt elk every day of my life. Maybe not tomorrow because I'm fat and out of shape right now. So that's probably not going to work as I stare at my Peloton over there, staring at me right now. So yeah, it's not cheap. So then after all this happened, I decided to have the mindset to call Josh and go, hey Josh, have you told your wife yet about your mounting and taxidermy fee from South Africa? He's like, you better shut up right now. Say another word.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean that you're so right on that avenue of the hidden costs that you're not quite sure of, or things you got to figure out. When you're going to Africa or New Zealand or somewhere that far away, you're going to pay, it's going to be $2K for your flight both ways, $2,000 ish in that neighborhood. If you get it for under, you're lucky. You're going to get meals there and back. The flight's horrible. You got to try to get up so your ankles don't swell up and sit for 15 hours. The flight back will be even worse for me because it's 30. It goes through Paris coming back. So I'm going to try to, I don't know, get some French fries or something fun in Paris. I don't know. As French fries, did they originate in Paris? I have no idea. But I'll try to find some fun French food or some baguettes or something. I don't know. Yeah, some fromage, which is French for cheese. But the other cost, you got to look at the bow you're taking, how you're going to protect it. Like Paul said, we're going to put your arrows, extra baggage fees, and then when you get there, you're going to enjoy. I mean, depending on what outfitter you go to, I would suggest picking a vetted outfitter. There are some situations you don't want to get into when you're that far away. So make sure your outfitter is vetted. And, I work with Hunt Tech, and Johan and Beulah do a great job at making sure things are 5-star and really nice. The food's phenomenal. Enjoy your food while you're over there. I will say you're not bringing meat back. When you go to Africa, you are not bringing
you're feeding villages.
Yes, you're not bringing meat back. Downside to it, you're not going to bring that meat home to get to use all of it at all, any of it. You're feeding people. They're going to maybe sell that meat to other people and that sort of thing, but that meat is all used. But the one thing
you get to eat it on your hunts?
The kind of neat thing is, usually the next night, when I shot that Watusi bull, the next night we had steaks from that Watusi, and they were the best I've ever had. It was phenomenal. So I had ostrich burgers after I shot the ostrich with a Gila cut with a Raven R500. That was fun. That little sucker went down not quick enough, but he went down eventually. They're tough. We had what else do we have? Some really good.
What about the monkey? Did you eat the monkey?
I didn't, but people do. I didn't.
I heard they eat the brains out of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff apparently they do. That the baboons are all over the place. They are mean as all. They're mean as sin. They'll climb.
They're nasty.
They'll try to hop in the hide through the windows, and they'll just tear the living daylights out of you. So
and they got teeth like this.
Huge teeth.
So anyone out there, if you think we're shooting monkeys, like go to South Africa and look at a baboon, or go on Google and look at a baboon. They are nasty bastards.
They are nasty.
Like they will hunt you down. Like if you got to go pee, they will run after you and eat you. In the woods, they will eat anything.
Yeah, the first one I shot, it was actually the first animal I shot when I got there. We were. I always remember it. We were in a hide. It was in the morning. It's probably 7:30, 8 o'clock. They threw some citrus out, and this whole, what do you call them? A herd? What do you call a bunch of baboons? I don't even know what you call a bunch of baboons. A herd? A gang? I don't know what you call them.
Yeah, I don't know.
This whole group of baboons came running in, and I was watching them, and Johan's like, well, let's get a big male. And so this big male lumbers in, and he sits down on his haunches, and he's just going to town on an orange or something. He's looking down, looking up, looking down, looking up, and I full drew on him. And I had the pin right below his neck. He's looking down and up and down and up, and I had to time it right so he would look up, to get that arrow in there. And he looked up, and right when he looked up, I was ready and settled, and I just hit it. And it went all the way through him. He went about 15 yards, and that was all we wrote. But I have videos. They'll come up to the windows, and because on the bottom of the hides, there's a one-way mirror window. You can see out, they can see in, but looking in, it reflects. So they're up there looking at their face, moving back and forth, trying to figure out what's going on. And they want to jump in the hide. They're on top of the hide, jumping around. They rip thatch roofing out. They rip Wi-Fi wires out. They're all over the place. So they're too numerous. And so when you have a
Wi-Fi
chance,
in your hides.
no, in the hot lodge that we stayed
Oh,
in.
the lodge.
Yeah.
It's like, so you're hunting in a hide and you're
No. I remember laying there at 1 a.m. one night. I was laying there, I heard him outside, all over the place, right by my window, just running around doing stuff and ripping things out the picnic table, and they're all over the place. So I would suggest, if you want a good hunt, they're a lot of fun, but they'll tell you they're kind of hard to hunt because they're so fast. They move around all the time. So you got to time it right, and you got to have a good shot because they're not that big of an animal to shoot unless you get a big male. But as far as the skulls and the taxidermist costs over there, usually when you have taxidermy done in South Africa, it's going to be a lot cheaper than America. Their rand is 19 times less in value than our dollar. So our dollars go a long way over there. So your taxidermy bill is going to be cheaper. The shipping's what's going to get you because they put everything in a crate. They screw it to the side of the crate so it doesn't jostle around. And it's a big wooden crate that they'll ship to America either via plane or ship. Ship takes longer, of course, and it could cost you anywhere from, I'll find out at the end of the summer, but anywhere from 15 to 2K to get that crate dropped off to the shop. And then of course I have to find space to put these huge animals.
So are you getting mounts or are you just getting skulls and hides?
I got just skull mounts this time since I have 9 different animals, and then probably there'll be about 13 in there by the time I'm done ish, or 14, depending if I take a sable or not. But I did get the hides too. I got some hides taken of the kudu, and I didn't get a zebra the first time, so that'll be my trip this time, try to get a zebra. But I just got all skulls done. I want to put them in the shop in various places. I didn't have any taxidermy done this time. There's just too many animals to get into that at the first big trip over there.
Yeah.
But I would tell people to make sure that you are aware, like Paul said, went through, you're going to give people tips. You're going to give your PH a tip. You're going to give maybe trackers.
Yeah.
There are tips and, that aren't always included, and you want to try to help people out and of course be decent as a person. So you're going to have some tips. You're going to have, just like Paul said, cost at the airport. Anywhere you go, food's expensive. Of course, we all know how expensive airport food is to get on a plane.
Mm-hmm.
So just be careful when you sign up for a hunt like that. You look at your base cost, but you're always going to have thousands more on top of that.
Oh yeah. And I forgot about the tip part, because even if you don't harvest, you're tipping, $100. And then, even out here, like every whitetail hunt I've been on, or elk hunt or whatever, like, if you shoot something, like you're giving, $500, $600, whatever, to that person, say like, thank you, especially if it's a monster, but the hunts are expensive. And Cedric, just to catch you up, we were talking a little bit about me pooping my pants and a bow going off. That was exciting. And we were talking about some stories about that. And then we were talking about just kind of we talked about hunts and the costs of going everywhere, but the incurrent costs after that. So like if you get something, the butchering cost, the tipping cost, the getting the meat home if you want it, the taxidermy costs, like all that stuff. So, a $5,000-$6,000 hunt can turn into a $12,000-$13,000 hunt pretty quickly, especially if you're shooting the animal of your dreams. So, Troy, out there, you live in Ohio, and, I don't know if you've traveled much or gone elsewhere to hunt, but, even for you, like you spend what you have to spend to get all these farms set up and mineral sites and feed and stands and all that. And we do it too. And then, all of a sudden you say you shoot a 160, 170 and you want to get it mounted, right? Then you have, whether you butcher it yourself, then you save money. If not, then you're $200-$300, and then you got caping fee, and then you got to bring it to taxidermist, and that's $700-$800, and then bringing it home. Right. So you're in it the minute you pull that trigger. You're in it for a couple grand.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. It's not on the same scale, I guess, as some of those big Western hunts or even international, going to other places and hunting. But I know personally, I've seen it here in Ohio. Fortunately, like we do most of the stuff ourselves. Like we butcher them ourselves, we debone them, we do everything. I like to take all the meat to a processor just because it's a lot easier at that point, and I've already saved a ton of money by doing all the non-skilled labor, if you will, getting all the meat off the bones. But like you said, you've got, even right now, if you're running cameras, a lot of the cameras are like $9 a piece for 1,000 pictures a month. So if you want to run 5, 6,
and then the
7,
12,
8 cameras,
16 batteries it takes, which are $30.
Yeah, and then and then you got batteries, and then you've got, heaven forbid somebody steals one. Now you're out, a couple $100 plus all the frustration. And then you got stands, depending on how you hunt. I mean, I hunt out of a saddle, so that's a $300 saddle that I'm wearing plus climbing sticks, so you're set up for say $500 easily. But if you've got hang-ons, you might have a couple $100 in each tree, and you want to have, depending on where you can go, but some people have 5, 6, 7 places they want to hunt. So you got to have a place, you got to be able to hunt in all those locations. So it adds up really quick. It definitely adds up. And getting things mounted, I know we ran into that last year. I was pretty fortunate to go with a couple guys that harvested nice bucks. And yeah, depending on where you called here in Ohio, I mean, none of them were under $1,000, just to have, and nothing major. And that's, I guess saying getting a good mount done, but not like a, 180, 190, 200-inch deer. I'd want to go to somebody really reputable and vetted and, make sure it's done right. But these are just for, I guess you'd say, just a good looking deer. Hey, I just want to be able to keep it, but
yeah.
So it adds up very quickly.
Yeah, the typical mount now is anywhere between $600 and $900 for more of your individual that is won awards and it has doing professional hunters work. You're in $1,000 just for a typical shoulder mount for a deer. You can get other people for a couple $100 to do it, but you never know what you're going to get. I mean, for me down here, like I haven't found a taxidermist here yet, so I bring everything back up to Pennsylvania in New York, on the border of Pennsylvania and New York, where I know like he's renowned. Like people ship him stuff for all over the world, and I know what I'm going to get when I give him my money. So rule number one, when you find a good taxidermist, keep them, get to know them really well, take care of them because they do good work. Also, on some of the larger scale taxidermists, some of the owner that has won all these awards and done all this stuff, and he's got like 10 cronies in the back doing taxidermy, like he's only touching the trophies. Like, so if you come in with a 210-inch whitetail, or you're coming in with a 420-inch bull, like that's what he's doing. He's mounting that. You come in with a 120, 130, or a 200-inch bull or whatever, like you're just a generic hunt. Like the guys in the back are doing that, and he's checking on it. And I know the difference even from the person I go to that's vetted up in Pennsylvania. Like when I shot Thor, he was the archery record that year in New York for the size of deer that was shot just for that year. So he did that himself. And if you look at his mount versus the 120 something that I have mounted that his apprentice did, like it's good. Don't get me wrong, it's really good, but it's not nearly what this guy did. Like the deer looks like it's alive walking through the woods, where the other one looks good, but you could tell the difference. So, be cautious in what these people tell you and what you're getting. So, that's a big one. And Cedric, thanks for coming on. I know we had a little mix up on times there, but, is the same thing down there and where you're from? Like, are you, regards to taxidermy and stuff?
Well, so you guys are going to hate me. So my dad's a taxidermist.
Oh, I know where I'm sending my stuff.
I don't hate you at all. We'll just get to know you a little bit. That's all.
I love you. I love you.
Yeah. So I am. So I guess I fall into probably the like 1% that's really blessed in the fact. So what I do essentially is I pay my dad for the forms because just like
they're not cheap. For the record.
Well, I was about to say, just like anything, McKenzie's raising their prices with inflation and everything too. I mean, if you want to get a freeze dried head for a turkey, I mean, it's $140.
Yeah.
So that's so I pay for the forms, or I pay for that stuff, and then I get his labor for free. But I usually make it up some way, shape, or form. Blood, sweat, and tears. So it's the same down here. I mean, you're looking anywhere from $600 to $800. Maybe $900 if you're really good. We have a problem. Well, I shouldn't say we have a problem. I just see it all over the internet with some of the people that I know that live in like northern Missouri, where a lot of big deer get shot. We have a problem, man, with people stealing stuff. And that's just something, if my dad wasn't a taxidermist, I would nervous, right? Like I'd want to meet that person face to face. Because I mean, you shoot a 170, 180, and you take it to somebody, and you're like, it's been a year, and you're like, hey man, what's the deal? And he doesn't start getting back with you. That'd make me pretty nervous. But
yeah, I have a story on that. Not to cut you off, but my family has property in Kentucky, and they hunt. One of my uncles lives out there, and they go out and hunt. My other uncle on my dad's side goes out every year, September 1st, opening day, and you can hunt over bait. It's like the best state in the world to hunt. And, they shoot giants. Like, I'm talking, they won't even pick up their bow for a 160. So you're talking like 170, 180, 190 plus. So a couple years ago, my uncle shot probably like a 184. in velvet, curly, like G3, just a giant 12. So dropped it off, went to the same taxidermist they go to, dropped it off, whatever. Didn't hear anything for a year. No problem. So he's like, okay, let's call him. So he sent my other uncle over there to see what happened. What's going on. He walks over there. The place is burnt to the ground. So what happened was everyone like, oh, it's a fire, whatever. So sorry. What happened was it was an insurance job. So everyone's mounts, everyone's trophies, everything that's in there, he just lit on fire, gone. So that's a once in a lifetime deer. Like, I'm sorry. Like, if I ever shoot a 184, like I'll be lucky to shoot anything ever again after that. So, that was heartbreaking. He was lucky to shoot like a 170 something the year after, but that is, that's what happens. And that's not theft, but it's similar, right? So you have how many people, and I mean, they're in an area of Kentucky where they're shooting, between 170 and 220-inch deer every other day, down there. There's just giants. And that's what happened. And he ended up collecting all the insurance money, and his deposit was gone, his deer was gone, everything was gone. Wow. So now you wasted all that money is gone on that hunt, the airfare, the travel, the food, the memories. Granted, we have pictures of it to prove it, but it's all gone because of what? Either someone stole it, like you said, or someone, had to do something. So it's just unreal.
Yeah, it's pretty horrible. And then like I know you guys are talking about just kind of the pricing and stuff that can get wrapped up in some of these hunts. And, I haven't went like on a guided hunt or anything like that. And I, probably for good reason, because I don't make the kind of money Paul makes, but
easy. I'll show you my in versus my out, and you'll be a lot. You'll feel a lot better about yourself.
Exactly. But man, I mean, you start traveling to, especially if you're driving too. I mean, airfare can get expensive, but if you decide, I want to drive, especially the way gas prices are now. I mean, when we got down to, which I don't know what the gas prices are like out by you guys, but when we went to Colorado last year, we were just north of New Mexico, and it was close to $5 a gallon or something like that, and it's just, you start taking that into consideration. Like you guys said, food and then Troy, we chase, a lot of whitetails. Paul goes on a lot of Western hunts. I mean, I've been on a couple, but nothing, not a lot. And I definitely haven't been, internationally hunting and stuff like that, hoping to change that next year. But chasing whitetails is no small token either. I mean, especially if you're hunting multiple states, I mean, tags alone, I mean, if you're going to go to, and I've got buddies in Iowa and I've got buddies in Kansas. I mean, if you want to draw a tag over there, I mean, it's almost as expensive as an elk tag. I mean, just once it's all said and done, I mean, I think my elk tag last year was probably like, once it was all said and done, like probably close to $800, I think. And I mean, you draw an Iowa tag just to be able to put in for just to put in for the draw. Like this isn't even the tag alone is $185.
Yeah, and you don't get it back.
You get all of it except 60 bucks, because the preference point is 60 points. So if you put in, you have to buy that to put in for the tag, and if you don't get it, you can get that 60 bucks back or whatever, or get it back up to 60 bucks. But yeah, like when I went to Iowa to turkey hunt, it costed me 180 some bucks to put in for a draw, because you have to draw a turkey tag in Iowa, and then
that's ridiculous in my mind. Sorry, it's a turkey. Like, come on.
That's a lot.
Yeah, so that's just to put in to draw for the tag, and then I get the tag, and it's another $144. So by the end of it, I'm telling people what I'm paying to go hunt a turkey in Iowa. And they're like, you know how many you could buy at Walmart for that amount of money? I'm well aware.
Yeah, big old juicy ones too, not them wild ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I mean, it's insane.
Well, that's like you said with even Kansas, like, because I'm originally from there. I was trying to go back and hunt with my family last November, and I decided not to hunt. I mean, I went back and visited family, and I went with my younger brother, but I didn't even buy a tag because I was going to be in it. I think when it was all said and done, it was over $400, almost $500 for me to get an out-of-state license, try and get tags, do all this, and we had like 48 hours to hunt. We had like 48 hours to hunt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Well, Ohio for out-of-staters, I want to say is maybe. I mean, it might be competitive with Missouri, but is probably one of the cheapest states to hunt for a non-resident. And it's because I hunt there every year as a non-resident, and it's $265. I mean, it's 200.
New York, 130, baby.
Okay, well then there we go. There we go. So, but
come on down.
Come on
down. Exactly.
Price is right.
It's insane, man. I mean, and then like you guys said, you get into cameras. Well, are you planting food plots? If you're planting a food plot, you probably need a tractor. I mean, it can get you can get as deep into it as you want to. I mean,
absolutely.
Another great hidden cost that people don't think about is, especially if you're shooting for the meat, like you guys talked about, say you shoot an elk out in Utah or Colorado and you got to get it home. That's a huge expense in itself. But then storage and keeping that meat good, whether you got freezers, okay, all right, I go shoot a couple 100 pounds worth of meat. Now I got to buy another freezer. And then what if the power goes out? Well, it's like, okay, well, I don't want that to ruin. Do you have a generator? Do you have any, so there's the hidden costs are, the what ifs and all that stuff. It can go a mile long.
When we got home from my elk hunt, we came home with almost 700 pounds of meat. We took everything out of the freezer and put it in the fridge, and this is what we're eating for the next. We got chicken and venison and everything else, and it's like with elk. And I will tell you, if you shoot a decent size elk, like I said before, mine was close to 1,000 pounds. Like you have more meat than you will ever eat. And I give away a decent amount just because people want to try it, they love it, and after a while, I love it. Don't get me wrong, but you can only eat it so much.
Oh, yeah, variety. That's
you need a little bit of variety in your life. Like I'm not that hard up that I got to eat, venison every day of my life. But it's definitely it's true. So, but no, I mean even like you said with deer, it's everything adds up, and the costs just keep going up. So
they do. And like, a lot of us, I'm pretty sure a lot of us here kind of maybe dabble in the self-processing and stuff like that. I mean, okay, so now you need a grinder. You know what I mean? You need a stuffer. It's not just, okay, I'm going to go cut this animal up. I'm going to dice him up. I'm going to put him in the refrigerator. Next thing you know, I've got jerky. So it's not how it works.
I wish.
Yeah, I know, right? And then like, you think about the amount of time that's dedicated to that too. That's something that doesn't have a price point on it, but what is it, worth, or however you want to word that. I mean, I don't know if you guys have talked about this. Like I said, I kind of hopped on here late, I screwed up, but it's time. Like even if you're whitetail hunting, I mean, so I get off work at 3, and I'm out of the woods by 7:30. I don't know. By the time I get home, my wife's getting dinner ready, and then we're going to bed, and we're doing it all over again. You know what I mean? So that's the other thing, is it might not have a price point on it, but you start getting away from your family, and you start spending more time in the woods because you're chasing that, and so there's that also.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I've gotten to the point now where I've got, maybe it's an age thing. I don't know if it's getting older or what, guys, but
you're 42. Stop saying you're getting older.
Well, you and I.
He's got a cane in the background. That's why it's blurred out.
The old backdoor night, boys. Anyway, growing up in Killbuck, we always, from the family, blue collar family, we processed our own deer. We cut it up, debone it, grind it. My mom had a KitchenAid mixer with a grinder attached on there, and it's not real hardcore, but it works. And then we got a bigger grinder later, and she would do spaghetti with ground venison, and I still do. I do a lot with ground venison, but what I've figured out now, just for my life and our family usage, when I shoot a deer, I may be lazy, but I take it for my time and the effectiveness of us eating that meat. I take it right to a local processor. Use Raber's here. I know Troy knows where I'm talking about with Raber's deer processing. It's not far from my house. He does a really good job. It's very clean, and he knows the Clovis real well by now. It's been taking a lot of victims in there, but I have him usually do like a bunch of ground and 1 pound and 2 pound packages, and that's for our tacos and our chili, and it's just a universal. Ground venison's for me good for anything. And then I'll have him cut some steaks out, some backstrap steaks for me to keep those and hold back special for bacon wrap steaks or whatever. And then the rest of it, I'll be honest, I get made into smoked trail bologna because our family loves smoked trail bologna in any sort of way. Probably one of the best things we do with it is we'll slice it up, throw it in a skillet with some brown sugar, cook it up, get it hot, brown it both sides, throw some Swiss cheese on there, let it melt, and throw it between 2 piece of bread and a sandwich with a little mayo or something, and you never lay your lips on something better than that because it's smoked, it's good. Troy knows what I'm talking about. Bringing some down to Paul Friday. Paul, bringing you some down. We come down, you're gonna get some smoked Raybridge Trail bologna, but they can put some cheese in it. They can put some hot pepper jack or whatever you want in there. I think we talked about it, Troy, the other week. Here's a secret for you from the Ohio boys here. My kids like it with cheddar cheese in there, but it does get a little watery when you thaw it out. You put cheese in there, it gets a little watery. So I would suggest that don't doing it at first because you're gonna like the texture better without it and just the plain trail bologna. But I like it because I freeze it, and so either at night, say 11 o'clock p.m., you get ready to go to bed, take it out of the freezer, set that sucker. It's vacuum packed, slice up a ring in the sink. By the time I get up at 6-7 a.m., it's thawed out, but yet still cold and good temperature. I can throw it in the fridge and then slice it up later, put it in a Rubbermaid container, and you're good to go for how many times you want to snack on that stuff. So it's just quick and easy, and we eat it like crazy. And I found that for me personally, we eat way more wild game meat when I get it processed, and I spend a buck to get it processed, and I'm trying to do it myself because it seems like if I do it myself, we don't eat it as much. Just the way it is.
Yeah. So, obviously being culinarian, I butcher everything myself, but I agree with you. Like, I don't do jerky and sausage or anything like that. Like, I'll make breakfast sausage out of the venison just because it's, it's nice and we like it. But, anytime, like, I would take a whole deer and just send it off to a processor just to get jerky done, like, because it's worth every bit of it. Or snack sticks or cheddar bologna or whatever. Like,
snack sticks.
The snack sticks are the best. But you find a good processor, you keep them. If you can do all that yourself, great, and you have the time and warranted to do that. But between hunting and work and archery shop and my wife's shop and podcast and social and everything else and having 2 kids, it's like you barely have 4 minutes to yourself, so find something good and keep it going. But I agree, any of that snack stuff is phenomenal for wild game.
I was trying to debate, like, I had a couple of guys, I think we were talking about Nebraska antelope not that long back, a while back, and I had an opportunity, I think it might have been Andy, actually, it was, he was looking at an Oregon cow elk hunt, and I talked to my family, I'm like, well, if I shoot one, that's 1,000-ish pounds of meat, probably it'll feed the entire family for a year on that amount of elk. So I thought I kicked it around because it would be August, I'd have to drive the pickup out to do it, I had to buy some big old coolers to do it, but we were really considering it, even taking my dad out, just split that cost if I shot it or he shot it, and just split that meat up for the whole family. But I've heard, Paul, you can help me out with this, is elk one of the best wild game meats to eat?
For me it is, and it's up there. Elk is very lean, so if you're getting ground meat done, like burger meat or ground meat for anything, you have to cut it with beef fat because it's just too lean and won't stay together in a patty or anything like that. It makes really good jerky. It makes really good sausage. It makes really good anything smoked, or like you said, the bologna and stuff like that. But anything that you're going to do grind wise, make sure they cut it with beef fat because there's not enough fat in there to really hold it together. But the loins and the tenderloins and the steaks, it's just phenomenal.
I was going to ask you how the steaks are. I've heard the steaks
and the
are
cows.
really
The cows are the best. Like, my bull was a 5-year-old bull, and I hit him a little back, and then he was live for a while, and I had to shoot him again, and so he was a little bit under stress. So mine's a little tough because of the pheromones and the hormones and everything that goes through it when he experiences that. But my uncle shot a 4-year-old cow. He got 500 pounds of meat out of that, and we just did a carpaccio out of it. Like, I took a roast of elk and just chopped it up and marinated it, and we just ate it raw. Like, it was so good and tender and everything. Like,
that's something else.
It's awesome. So when you guys come out next week, we'll have I got some elk ready for you guys. We'll do some different preparations and stuff, so awesome. We'll have a feast. So
I'm excited. That'll be fun. I look forward to that. I know I had one of the better meats I've had recently was eland antelope in Africa. They grind it and they made a hamburger out of it, and it was one of the best hamburgers I've ever had. They said it's a very mild meat, very soft.
Yeah.
So it's good for burgers. The ostrich was good. They did whole meat on that. That was pretty darn tasty. And then, of course, Watusi's bull steaks were just phenomenal. But probably the best meat I had over there, I honestly was like giraffe fillet. I think I mentioned that one of the podcasts. They did a braai, which is like an open fire. You guys know what a braai is?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just an open, over the fire cooking. And they do big ones.
It's like taking sticks and you take the meat raw and you just hold it over the fire and you cook it yourself.
Yeah. And they usually elevate their fires up on like a concrete platform or something. So it's like eye height. and they love it's like a whole experience. So it's like you get together instead of us grilling out here in America, they do braais, and so they have like a usually biltong when you first start eating. It's like a dry biltong. It's pretty vinegary, like compared to it's a little bitey compared to our jerky. I wasn't used to the taste on that, but it's good texture wise. And then the giraffe fillet, we did open thin slices of giraffe fillet that I didn't take. They had taken with another hunter, but we got to try it, and they cooked it over open fire. Phenomenally tender, really good tasting meat. And so I enjoy that part of it more than anything, really. The hunting part is like, obviously Paul knows well, which is the recipes, how to prepare the meat, different ways of making. Like I did that turkey schnitzel. It was kind of fun this spring. It was a lot of work. I think next year what I'll do is I'll probably take the turkey, throw it in a Ziploc, and throw some Italian dressing in there and grill that bad boy. I've heard that's really good too, just doing that, and it's easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like you said, the experience after the shot, especially you guys could relate to this. I'm sure I've said it a bunch of times. I like trying to shoot them early when it's not cold, when I'm not freezing and dying in the tree, but that's a whole nother issue. And like Cedric, when you're saying, okay, you just worked all day, maybe you've been hunting every night of the week, and next thing you know, you've got this whatever animal coming in, and it's a few minutes before dark. And so you take the shot, and as soon as you let that arrow go, you're like, what did I just do? Like,
work begins.
It's too hot. And especially, I hate to say it, but especially if it's a
3
doe, because then you're not hunting a trophy, which we don't have to be hunting trophies by any means. But I know I've personally done it. And my wife would be texting me, she's like, I hope you are in your truck headed home. And I'm like, about that, I am in my truck, but I'm not headed home, because then you have hours and hours of work, especially if it's not cold enough just to hang them.
You're wrong. You're wrong. When we grew up, you don't pull that trigger unless like my dad used to say, we used to go hunting all the time up in upstate New York, and we'd get there Friday night, we'd leave Sunday night because I'd have school, and if it was a 4-day weekend, it'd be Monday night, and he'd be like, okay, we're going hunting. After hunting on Sunday, we drive home. You don't pull the trigger on Sunday night unless it's a giant.
Yeah.
Like there's no meat. There's no, wow, that's a nice deer. There's no,
You just don't touch it.
up. There's no nothing. You don't send it. You don't punch it. You don't do anything unless it's a giant.
But there's sometimes
that sticks with me.
There are times where the deer just gets too close and your finger gets real itchy.
Yeah,
I mean,
just stomping and snorting at you. You can't let them go.
I remember my life. I've been beat down by my dad.
You get beat down by it.
I remember I was like 16, and I got into bow hunting when I was like 15, and I was a first generation bow hunter. Nobody else in my family did it before me. And I'm hunting one night out of a ground blind. It's early. It's like September, early, like, right after the opening day here. And I have a doe come out. She's at like 50 yards, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna try it. Like I'm gonna, I'd been shooting, I was pretty comfortable, and I was like, I don't even know if I'm gonna hit her, and I end up shooting her, and I end up just center punching her. I mean, right in the pocket, and I mean, heart shot her. She runs like 20 yards, kills over, and I'm like, oh my god, like that's awesome, I'm super pumped. And my dad's like, what did you do? Now we gotta stay up all night, get it all taken care of.
I had a similar incident happen this past year. I was out with a raven, and it was cold. It was raining, it was sleeting, and I had moved spots actually because I didn't like where I was, and I was way back in. And this doe and this yearling got way too close, and there were like 3 or 4 bucks out. They were small in the field. I was watching them, and I thought to myself, if that nanny doe gets close enough, if she busts me, she's going down. I'm gonna send it, And of course, she got 20 yards from me, and she's messing around, and she looks up at me, and she's cocking the ear sideways, and she's stomping and blowing, and I'm like, you just, it's time. So I dropped the hammer.
You just punched your ticket.
Yeah, I let the Clovis eat right through her, and she only made about 15 yards and went down, and she was across a creek, and I'm like, I got done with the shot, and I was like, well, that was effective, and then I thought, now I got to figure out how to get her out of here by myself. She was big. So I got down, I got my media, I got some content, and I have a couple of pictures of, I had a gator on, a neck gator. It was cold out, and I have it pulled up, and my eyes were popping out. It was kind of a fun experience. I always remember it, but I'm getting down. I'm like, okay, I got all this equipment, my climber, my bow, the dead doe. It's gutted. I field dressed it, and my truck's, several hundred yards away. And I'm like, how am I gonna get all this crap back to my truck? And I have a product that they sell called a buck cuff. You guys see those? They're a deer drag. Okay, it's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
they're pretty cool.
I demoed it in Africa. It takes all the stress off your wrist and your hand strength trying to grab and pull. So it goes around your wrist. It's got a Velcro thing and it's got a pad you grip and you hook it onto a deer and you cinch it. Well, I didn't have it with me, and I'm like, you know what will probably work? So this is a great tip for you guys out there that do use climbers, or you're in a tree stand, you have that safety harness on. You know, the part that goes around the tree. Well, I usually just put it over my head, right? I just
you hook it to the deer and you pull it out with your harness.
Yeah, I put my climber down and hooked it up to that leg, and I threw my climber back on my back, so I had the climber on, the bow in one hand, and I'm walking out like this, you know, I felt like an Impala coming in during rut, you know, all fired up, and I drug that doe back to my truck, and by the time I got back, my wife's calling me, and of course the cell signal sucks where I was at, and it's late, it's, you know, way past dark. I could have been dead laying in the woods, or I broke my back, who knows what happened. I always try to drop a pin where I'm at, and she's like, "Where are you?" I was like, "Well," I pulled a Troy. I was like, "Well, honey, let me tell you what happened." You know? About that. So I gotta swing by Raybers on the way home.
Yeah, luckily I've got a good friend here, Josh, that you know you're welcome to use too. He's a good guy. He's got a nice big barn, and he actually built a walk-in cooler into his barn. So now those long nights are over. Now I can just, hey, I'm coming over, unlock the door, and I'll go hang it up. And he's got it refrigerated and everything. But
wow, my buddy down the road
help
has
him
the same thing.
Too, so it's well worth it.
Did you say we just got a new best friend, Troy?
Yeah, he's a good guy. He's real good.
We'll have like 12 deer hanging in there.
Yeah. I shot 3, and my father-in-law shot all 4 of mine went there last year, and it's well worth it. So
that's nice.
My buddy did the same thing down the road here. He's got one, but I'm going to build one in my yard here on a little pad that I have. But if you buy any AC unit and you buy this thing online, it's called the Cool Bot. It's like $400. It turns your air conditioner into a refrigerator. So it'll run at like 30, 31, 32 degrees and keep it in there. So
that's what he's got a window unit, and they rig the window unit somehow. Yeah, to where the thermostat never shuts itself of. So once he plugs it in, it just runs.
Yep, exactly.
Which is a hidden expense on your electric bill. You know what I mean?
Yeah. A little phantom power there.
Yep, exactly. But yeah, there's a lot of hidden expenses out there when it comes to hunting and what you can do to combat it. You know, I want to talk to Cedric a little bit. I know you were you outfit and help guide up in northern Missouri a little bit. You know, and part of my dream and my evolution of my brand and my career is I work with my uncle and on the side and looking at large properties to be an outfitter out west. We're looking at a couple currently, but just the incurring cost of running, like we run 4 or 5 trail cameras on my little 20 acres here. You know, God, imagine having 6, 7, 800. Like we have 300 acres up in New York where I was this week, and I was sending you guys footage, and you know, like you go to put out cameras, and like by the time you're on your 8th one, you're like 16 batteries for each one, and all this stuff, and it's like, God, like batteries are $30-something each, and I can only imagine some of these outfitters what they pay for this stuff.
Oh man, it's ridiculous. I mean, that's where genuine, and the guy that I guide for, his name's Mike Herbst, it's A3 Outfitters, and he's phenomenal. I mean, he's been in the industry for a long time. Dude knows his stuff like the back of his hand. And he's young. So I mean, he's 30, and so he's 30. So I mean, he's very business oriented. He went to school at Mizzou, but he's passionate. And I think that's what helps him a lot, is because he knows your first 5 years, you're not going to make any money. You know, it's not what it's kind of like a bow shop. You know, your startup costs are ridiculous. You know,
30 grand plus. I'm in the hole right now.
Yeah. So like, for example, I mean, we run 20 Tacticam cameras. We have 20 of those. So you're looking at
times 150.
Yeah, times $150, and then
so there's 2,500. Come on, Troy, you're the mathematician on the
last. I got a calculator out of the screen over here. Say that again.
Yeah, let's just say $3 grand.
Yeah. So then you get to thinking it's $13 for your first camera, and then $12 for every one after that. This is just our cell cameras. You know what I mean? And we're running muddy stuff, like muddies and all these other different type of cameras, just to get inventory. So there's that. Yeah, and then so there's just that, and then there's leasing. I mean, we lease 10,000 acres, I think is how many acres we lease, and so that alone, I mean, is incredible. You know, as far as pricing goes, I don't know the exact number, but it's somewhere big like that. And then you get into lodging. You know, do you have your own lodge? Are you going to build your own lodge, or are you just going to lease something out? You know, you're looking at upwards of if you're going to, and what do you want your reputation to be like? You know what I mean? I mean, you could put some people in, a camper or something, but is that going to be the hunting experience that you want your clients to have? Or do you want to put them up in something nice, which is what, we take a lot of pride in is, when you come, hunt with us, you're going to be staying in one of the nicest lodges, probably in the Midwest, honestly.
Yeah.
Legitimately. But you're looking at upwards.
Do I get a discount?
Yeah, I'll talk to him. Yeah, it's. I mean, you're looking.
You just heard the expenses. Ain't no discounts.
Yeah, well, you're looking. I mean,
we can clean. We can clean something.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey man, I cook better than anyone they have, so I'll make my money back.
Exactly. Well, exactly. And like then you get to thinking like you're hunting from. We don't really run a lot of clients in September. We really don't. And we don't really run a lot of clients in really honestly early October. I mean, that last week of October to December is when we're, in the grind, so to say. Mm-hmm. And, so there's, let's just say November, December, and then like a week or two in October. So for 2 and maybe a half months, I mean, you're looking at anywhere from $60,000 to $90,000 just to, rent a lodge or to have a lodge or whatever. So, man, there's so much money that goes into it. But whenever you have clients come in and they're like, man, I just saw this 180 and he came close, or, we had somebody shoot I want to say like a 170 or so. I can't remember how big he was. I wasn't there whenever he shot him, but you have somebody come in and they just shot the biggest deer of their life and you get to experience that with them. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it. Well, and then there's just the camaraderie, it's just, I mean, you're out there grinding, you're doing what you love. You're not going to the office or you're not going and doing this or that. I mean, you're out there, you're busting your butt. I mean, when we go out, whenever, here in a couple of weeks, we have to start, really getting ready to start doing things up there. Sadly, northern Missouri is in one of the worst droughts that they've had in years. I mean, it's looking bad.
It'll be a hard year for them.
So yeah, I mean, if you watch any of Lee and Tiffany's videos on YouTube, I mean, Southern Iowa, they're just preparing for all the EHD. But yeah, so then there's that. You've got all this expenses that you're trying to bring clients in to shoot good deer. I mean, we pride ourselves in the fact that we're 30 minutes south of Iowa. Like, you're coming up there to shoot big deer, right? And then EHD hits. And it's just like, what do we do? I mean, it's tough. It's really, really tough, so, but it's fun, man. It's been one of the greatest experiences and honestly, one of the greatest blessings for me personally. I've been able to, it's kind of how I got my start. If you want to call it a start in the outdoor industry. I mean, through that, I've met some great guys over at Sitka. I've met some great guys over at Whitetail Properties. I've met, the people at the Total Archery Challenge, Sean and everybody over there. I mean, just, you meet some of the most amazing people, through some of this stuff. And that's what, you building those connections and building those friendships is pretty, amazing also.
Yeah. I agree. And I do want to reiterate what we reiterated on a couple casts ago when we were talking about outfitters. Like, you have to remember in the back of your mind that you are paying for the experience and the opportunity. Yeah. You're not paying for the guarantee to go kill something. You are paying to hunt different property in different places and have the opportunity to, like, Illinois is my devil's back road. I've been there 5 times. I haven't killed anything. I haven't even pulled my bow back on something. But I've seen a 210-inch giant, double main beams like this. I've seen smaller bucks that I let go. And my buddy who I go with, he's just the ninja warrior when it comes to hunting. He kills a 150 or 180 everywhere he goes. It's just like they attract to him. But I have no luck out there. So, but I know every time I go there and that investment, and we're talking about investment and things, that license and that travel and the lodging and everything there is for the experience and the opportunity that one day it may happen. So, getting wrapped up in, oh yeah, I'm going to go hunt northern Missouri with Cedric and I'm going to shoot a 160. Like, no, you may not shoot anything. It may be a drought year. Maybe you'll get lucky and the guide will be like, hey man, don't come out. We'll continue your money to next year. Or he's going to be like, yeah, you guys can come, you can hunt, and you're not going to see shit. Like, it depends on the person that you're dealing with. So in my experience in this environment is when you find a reputable outfitter, is to stick with them. So we have 2 in Illinois that we stick with. One's very, very well known, Hadley Creek Outfitters. the Drury brothers started them off, and I know the owners of it, and we go out there every couple of years, and I haven't shot anything out there, but when I tell you, when you hear something walking through the woods, it's a buck coming. You know that. Like, they have some really good properties, and some big deer have been shot off there. My uncle has shot some big deer out of there. I haven't been lucky enough to do that, and then we have another one in more western North Illinois that we go to all the time. But if you find a good one, and we have a third one that we go to is Graveyard Whitetails. They just started off a couple years ago. Some great people, mid-30s, husband and wife. They built this big barn and great food and great accommodations and good hunting. And when we were out there, my uncle shot a 140, and then a guy that was in our group, he shot a 212. Like, just really just giant buck. And we're talking like beginning of October, opening week. It's 90 degrees. Like, you don't hunt the morning, you hang out, you shoot your bow, you eat, and then you go hunting for a couple hours at night, and you come back, and they really do a good job out there. So look them up if you ever are out there. But there's some good opportunities, just like Josh going out to Africa. Once you find a good guide and a good outfitter, like, you stick with them and you go, and it's going to come to fruition one day. And remember that you're investing in them. You're investing in them to do it.
Yeah.
If I call up the owners of Graveyard right now and message them and send them a text, they're going to be like, all right, man, here's, I usually pay this. You can pay that. You've been out 3 times. Like, let's go. Come on out. So, and that's the kind of relationship you want to build. So.
Absolutely.
Well, it's loyalty too. I mean, one thing I think above anything that I have learned doing, I guess, this or whatever you want to call it, is loyalty, how big loyalty is. And if you show people loyalty, that goes a long way. It goes probably longer, probably farther than about anything. I would even go as far to say farther than money. Somebody can look at you, or they can call on you, or if they're talking about somebody and they're like,
sorry guys,
hey, do you know much about Josh? And they're like, oh yeah, dude, Josh is a swell guy, blah blah blah, trust him, this and that. You know what I mean? That's gonna go a long way. Then he's got a lot of money, but he's this turd, you can't trust him as far as you can throw him, type thing. So that's one thing I've learned too, is how big loyalty is. But on what you were saying about, finding good outfitters and reputable people, that's so true. I mean, I've seen some outfitters, or I've been around some outfitters, never hunted at one, but I've seen them, been around them, that, they get your money, you come in, and good luck. You know what I mean? This is the place that you can go hunt, and I hope you shoot something. You know what I mean? And there's like Mike, who I work for, and this dude will be taking clients to stands at 4:35 in the morning, and he went to bed at like 3 because he is up constantly checking cameras. Like, okay, is this deer back on the property? Is this deer on another property? What's he doing? I mean, he is, from the time he's there, or the time that we're there, I mean, you're hustling because how badly you want people to be successful. So that's a big thing. I mean, I've never been to Africa. I'm looking forward to going, but those personal hunters, I mean, I bet they're working their butts off to, help you be successful, and stuff like that. Whenever you find people that want to do that, and they find as much enjoyment in your success as you find in your success, that goes a long way.
Yeah, that's the difference between a good outfitter and just someone looking to collect the money.
Absolutely.
That guy that's up, that wants to put you on deer, and you could tell right away. The people that want to put you on deer and want to do the right thing, and they know their places inside and out, and that's you'll know right away when you get there. Unfortunately, you may have to trudge through some of them to get where you need to go, but you'll know right away.
Well, I think you'll develop, like Cedric said, that relationship. It all starts with relationships. I don't care what you're doing, whether it be broad a company, an archery business, and a bow shop, or an outfitter. You have that relationship. There is a common trust you build together, and you're there. You're there for parallel reasons. And I know I went to Roger Burger safaris in Africa the second half of my trip there, and had a phenomenal hunt the whole time. First place I went to was really hilly terrain, very mountainous, different vegetation, a lot of hard hunting conditions, but just beautiful scenery, unbelievable, like mind-shattering scenery. And the second place at Rogers is more grasslands, more open long shots, things like that, hard to get close to the animals. So we did a lot of spot and stalk there. Given the time of year, there was a lot of green vegetation. But what I will always champion and appreciate from Roger, he's now, consider the guy a friend. Like, we talk back and forth on WhatsApp personally. He has a promo video that's brand new that came out, and I have to be on it, and I appreciate everything he does for how he treats his hunters, because not only was the experience 5-star, the housing was 5-star, but he was my personal PH. So he led me, and we spot stalked Cape Buffalo for 3 or 4 days trying to get get close to one finally. And the first couple of days just didn't work out. The young bulls were mad. They were setting up perimeter. They were coming at us. We had to back off. And then that last morning I was there, we only had about 4 hours to get out and get it done. And it was a horrendous morning. That was super foggy, super hard to see. Just you could see the water hanging in the air. And as scary as it was an experience of a lifetime for me. You know, as scary as it was, I'll think back fondly on it my entire life because I remember what happened on that hunt. I remember doing it with those guys, and they're still friends today. And I reach out, we talk back and forth. But I respect all these outfitters because they have a hard job. They are, you know, they're expected to put people on the animal they want to hunt. We all know how animals are wild, and you can't time anything. It's just not how it goes, especially here in America. And so when Hunt Tech flies here to Ohio in November with trees and to hunt whitetail, you know, Troy and I and Lee Hartzler, we're all working hard to get these farms ready for people and get mineral blocks out and sites and things like that. But they have to understand our American hunting is very different.
Still hunting.
It's very different. They're gonna be hunting, and it's free range. And while in Africa the kudu are free range because they can jump any fence, you can't keep them in. The number of animals you're going to see in Africa is unbelievable as a hunter compared to what we experience in this country, just because they're just so numerous over there, and they're coming to the water and they're coming to the food because that's what they have to do to survive.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and I have two different stories, you know, one positive and one negative. So we booked a hunt out in southern Ohio, actually, probably about 12 years ago. And it was a newer outfitter. He was a nurse and his wife was a doctor, and they started an outfitting business, and that's what they wanted to do. And they showed like all these pictures. So we get there and the accommodations were okay. So we go and hunt in a range the whole time. And, you know, in Ohio, you can bait, right? So like when we get there, all the feeders are empty. There's no bait on the floor. There's no deer around, nothing. And, you know, we're like kind of like, what's going on? Long story short, no one saw anything to shoot, let alone have the opportunity or shot anything. We leave, and it was just, we left negative feedback. My uncle like tore him apart because it was just like a shit show. It just wasn't right. And then what happened? The guy that guided us, the day we left that morning, he went to a different stand and shot a 170 because he knew it was there. It's like, you watched that deer, you knew he was there. You had people coming in paying to do it, and you wouldn't put anyone in that place to go hunt. And then you let your guide go hunt there, and then he shot it. Like for me, like I will never, ever, like, and I don't care. It's my podcast. Southern Ohio Outfitters, never fucking go there ever again. I will never go there. So it is the worst. So I don't know what it's like now. Hopefully they got better and they learned from that. But you know, whatever. I'm Italian from New York. Don't F with me. So you know, and then you have the positives, right? You have the positives as a group where you go out and you hunt, and we're out there and a big name at Hadley Creek, and we got in from the first hunt, the first night, and something crossed ties and the cooks like didn't make what they were supposed to make. The owner himself went down the road, bought like 35 T-bone steaks like this, fired up the grill, and cooked steaks for all of us in camp. Like, just because he's like, this is bullshit. This should never happen. Like, he came into our camp that day and grabbed everything and just like, nope, this is not how it's going to be. And that's how I'm going to run anything that I do in my life. Like, if something happens, you're made to go above and beyond to make it better, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. So, but yeah, I mean, there's good people out there in this business. There's indifferent people out there. But at the end of the day, like, we're all spending our hard-earned money to go out on some of these hunts. And even if it's private, if it's public land and you're going by yourself, you're still buying the tag. You're still putting gas in your truck. You're still buying tree stands. You're still buying everything that you have to do. You need food for the time you're out there. You're away from your family, first and foremost, for that amount of time. So that's priceless in itself, right? And now you're going to do this. So yeah, it's on you to do that. But you know, there's a lot invested in this sport that we love to do. And the good thing about it is, I would hope that a lot of this money goes back to, you know, helping conservation, helping the animals, and helping putting back into, you know, technological advances. They use it for the right way, like Josh does, to make better broadheads or better bows or better whatever. You know, sometimes that happens, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. And I think it comes down to part of the reason I'm doing what I'm doing actually is, you know, when I started, it was okay, I want to create something different, right? And I had some issues with, you know, just all the things I've been through. We talked about it, Paul, in the podcast the other day. Pre-deployment, you know, flight issues. I love mechanicals, but I didn't like any of that stuff. And I got to thinking the other day, and I told my wife, you know, what I like about the best thing in this whole thing is what I'm doing is when that archer or that person say they spend $20,000-$25,000 on the hunt, okay, a whitetail hunt or a moose hunt or an elk hunt or an African hunt, I can promise that person that shooting my broadhead from the moment of the shot to impact, and of course that impact has got to do its job and open up and then cut through the animal and take it out. But at impact, there's a lot of angles, there's a lot of things that go on there depending on shot placement. But I can promise that archer from the release to the impact, that broadhead will do exactly its job 100% of the time for that person. And for me, that's personal, because I've seen shows, I've seen people, I've talked to other archers. People call me all the time, hey, my broadhead is not shooting consistently. Why? And I can explain to them why it's doing that. I can explain to them why the Clovis will not do that for them. But it's not really about me. It's about the fact that hunter can trust in that broadhead to impact. He knows or she knows that's going to do its job all the way in the air. And that's a hard thing to do when it comes to broadheads. Flying perfect and precision, you got to make the shot, but it's hard for any company on the planet to promise people that, but I actually can.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I follow the same rules when it comes to my archery shop as well. And I told everyone that bought a bow today, like, I 100% guarantee all my work. So if a D-loop fails or chips or the peep rotates or something happens, it's not shooting right, or the rest comes out of time, whatever, unless you wrap the bow around the tree because you're pissed off or you drop it because you're an idiot, I guarantee everything that I do. And that's what creates the business. That's what it's about. And I don't even care. It's right before hunting season. I want to come in and change my D-loop. No problem, man. You bought the bow for me. Boom, done. 5 minutes, it's done. But that's what it's about. It's about giving back to everyone to keep this sport that we love going in the right direction. And we're all doing it here on the Bowmen. So, but yeah, we're getting close to the end here. It's about an hour and a half into it. And thank you all for jumping on. Cedric, thanks for coming on and your input here and your outfitters. Can't wait to come out there to northern Missouri and stay at your house and start shooting some bucks.
Which I just found out. So they built the Airbnb right by our house, and so it's phenomenal. So if you guys ever want to come out here, it's beautiful, and I can get you.
You're paying?
Yeah, it probably won't. It won't cost much. So
that's nice. Cool.
Good places for all of us to hunt out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got some pretty decent deer down here.
Nice. Well, Ohio boys, we'll see you soon out here in Virginia. But if not, we'll be up there hunting with you soon enough. But thank you from the Bowmen Podcast. It's been a great night, and we'll catch you soon. Monday, we're going to be recording the episode 2 of the Campfire Stories there with Cedric O'Hara. We're going to get a little bit into his background, into his history, and ask a lot of questions that'll make his toes curl. Make sure your wife's not around for that.
Yep.
All right, everyone. Thank you.
You've been listening to the Bowmen Podcast. We love archery and bow hunting, anything outdoors. And we talk about fitness, mental health, gear, goods, cooking, and family. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, you can find us on social media at Romano Outdoors LLC, at Triple Point Outdoors, at Greenlight Outdoors, at C_2 Media, and at Caleb Bow Hunts. See you next time on the Bowmen Podcast.